been talking about mostly is the advisory side of our business. So I'm going to be talking about the brokerage side or kind of mutual fund side. So we've been kind of using a couple different terms here that are synonymous, but they're not the same. And so what I've kind of heard us talk about is Wealthscape accounts versus FMAX. The language that might help us all in the long run is understanding like brokerage versus FMAX. So FMAX is the advisory side, so that's going to continue to be the same. But Wealthscape is this kind of overarching side of our business, but within that, there's this Wealthscape brokerage, and that's what I'm going to talk on for a few minutes here. So this is, uh, going to be mutual funds that we're dealing with, but by and large, for accounts that are $10,000 and less, and this is where we'll be sending stuff. So I spent some time recently with one of our home office people on our TFA service line and had explained to him, hey, we're a mostly advisory team. And he had said, yep, hey, anything 10,000 and over, you're gonna have options on the advisory side. But I explained, what if someone's starting from scratch? A lot of us love to serve middle and upper middle America. And a lot of that is starting a Roth IRA from ground zero, or we've got a small rollover or transfer. And a lot of that's going to now have to be directed, in this case, to the brokerage side of our business. And so in this case, that's allowing us to get into mutual funds, unlike we've been doing in the past, where we've had Betterment or Goldman Sachs for some of those small accounts. We're now going to be buying into mutual funds where there's sales charges, there's contingent deferred sales charges, class shares that we need to take into account, all these different things. And it's not as complicated as we need it to be, but there's a couple of things to consider. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but there's some things for us to kind of walk through and figure out. So the first thing is when I had called someone 2 weeks ago, I think it was, of what we had access to for mutual funds. I was directed to an Excel spreadsheet that had a small list of 17,231 funds to pick from. And so we'll stop there. That's not going to get utilized. A fraction of those are not even going to ever get looked at. You can do your homework in your own time. There's some major fund companies that we would probably ever consider doing business with. And from there, there's then a couple hundred fund options. But your American funds, your Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, all of those are at our fingertips on this side. But there's so many that not one of us has ever even heard of, even if we did a quick Google search. So you can make it a lot simpler. But when I talked to someone here this morning, they had helped kind of direct me on where to go. But when we're going through this process, there's a couple things for us to consider. And one thing is the time horizon of the client and the client situation. So we have options between Class A and Class C shares for mutual funds. And the easiest way to kind of decipher this is Class A is going to be for longer term investors and using a relative time frame of 3 years or longer. And then a Class C share is going to be for less than 3 years. And so you can kind of walk through your hypotheticals. Maybe you've got a client that we're starting from scratch and we're putting $200 a month into a Roth IRA. We're not going to get to 10 grand in a 3 year time frame. And so it would make sense in that scenario to do a Class A. Maybe we have someone that has, 7 grand in an IRA account, and we just don't have enough to get onto the advisory side. So if we put, 7 grand in this brokerage side, maybe we'll do Class C because we can get a couple decent returns in the market and get over that hump here soon. And so we have those kind of things to decipher. But some things that I think is interesting compared to the advisory side. So first is just for the recording purposes, to buy into mutual funds on this side, you don't have to have your 65. So in this case, this would be your 6 and your 63. And then opening the account and walking through that process, one thing that's radically different from the advisory side is you're not going to be creating a proposal. So what we've been doing in up to this point on the advisory side is walking through and creating a proposal, putting their name into this FMAX user face. We're not going to be doing that on the brokerage side. You can just go straight to an account opening process. But from there, then we have a lot more. It's just kind of direct business and jump right in. So I'm going to share my screen and walk through a couple of things here. So you should be seeing my whole screen. David, I'd love for you to pop in at some point if you have a different experience. Up to this point, I have two unfunded brokerage accounts. They're part of a simple IRA plan that I'm starting to manage. So I don't have any clients funded yet, but what I'm going to walk through here is some of the steps that someone from our home office kind of walked me through. So they told me the first thing that we need to find out is who we actively are working with when it comes to mutual fund families. And he said the easiest place to go is through the product guide. And then from there, you can go to advanced search. And then under product types, you can click on mutual fund and it'll pull up a laundry list of mutual fund families that we have access to. Now, I will tell you, my guess is I'm going to probably work with two or three fund families ever. Most of my business is not going to be here, kind of like we were talking about those accounts that we might already have somewhere else that are under 10,000. We're going to keep there. And so this is someone comes to you from scratch or they are a brand new client. We need to put money somewhere somehow. This is where we would then be going to. So from here, then I'm going to go over to Wealthscape. We've already kind of walked through and said, hey, we know what fund families we have access to a partnership with through TFA. From here now, we're going to go to market and this magnifying glass or whatever you'd call that for market research. And then you're going to come down here under mutual funds and it's going to say mutual fund screener. So at this point, this allows for us to select certain criteria that will allow for us to break down. So let's just use, for example, we looked at our product guide and we know that we are, totally happy with American funds. We can now come in and click on fund family. And so this is going to take all of the funds we have access to and shorten the list down to find out what we're actually looking at. So these are all the fund families we have access to. So you can see I've been holding my toggle down for like 10 seconds and I'm just to F on the alphabet. So we're never going to come close to touching all of these. But just for today's sake, if I were to click on American funds, we have access to 801 of their mutual funds. Again, that's a list that will never get fully touched. But all of these criteria up here, we can select to kind of find out what we're wanting to invest in. So the easiest thing that we can then look at is load type. So do we want a front end load or a back end load? A front end load is going to be a class A share. A back end load is going to be a class C share. So let's just say in this scenario, I'm starting a client from scratch in a Roth IRA. So we're going to do a front end load because it's going to take a while. Now I can click on results, view results, and it will now give me a list of all of the funds that I have access to. So similar, this can be comparable on the advisory side within FMAX of that kind of research tab where we have all of our fund strategists and SMAs that we would be looking at. This is kind of what this is here. So I'm looking just on a specific fund family. And then from there, based on what the client's risk tolerance is and all that, you can come in here and then click on the specific ticker symbol and read up on the fund. So this is all of the things that you would need to do on the front end. So instead of building a formal proposal to show a client, we're going to be doing all of this on our end, on the front end, to figure out what fund we're going into. But let's just say in this case, we want to do the American Funds 2010 target date fund. That would be insane to do that. But if we were to do that, at this point, this is when we're able to then go and create the account and walk through that process. But where this is different than the advisory side in many different ways is we have to go in and manually purchase the mutual funds. Where on the advisory side, we put together the proposal and it automatically buys in for us. We have to now go in and do this process on our own. So the account opening process is the exact same as the FMAX or the advisory side. It's the same kind of walkthrough questions, but from there, obviously, this is just the brokerage side. So I want to take you to one of my unfunded client accounts. So this client, Curtis, he's a participant in this simple IRA plan. Once this gets approved and once we start funding this account, doesn't matter what type, money starts to hit and it's showing up in cash. This is where I, as the advisor, am having to come in and manually purchase the mutual funds that we're going to go into. And so to do that, you're going to do the drop down on the client name and then come over here to trade. And then if you wanted to do mutual funds, David Wynn was talking about UITs. So you can come in here and do that purchase process. But when you click on this, it'll then take you to a screen where you got to input a handful of information. But this is kind of similar to that process when you're building the proposal on the advisory side. You have to know what funds you're wanting to put that client into to then go into the proposal, put that information in to proceed further. At this point, I already know what fund we're wanting to go into. I'm going to put in my information that we're going to buy a fund. We're going to put in the dollar amount. This quantity is the dollar value. So let's just say a client moves over 7 grand and we're going to buy $6,500 worth of, ABC mutual fund. We're going to put that information in. And then we're going to finally at the bottom here, put in the day and the time when we put this request in. And then over here is when we have to then figure out the load waiver, if there's something that applies there. So up to this point, this is by and large the information that I know. So if there's specific questions or David, with your experience, I'd be happy to have you jump in too.
Yeah, sure. The one thing I'll know is you mentioned like the cash management part of a brokerage account. Since we don't have cash reserve on Betterment anymore or the I Series Ultra Stable Bond Fund on Transamerica One, we can have our clients in a money market equivalent account by doing a brokerage account and then just kind of invest from there. So we can technically have someone's emergency fund on a brokerage account and then invest into a multiple different things from there from the same account.
David, Alec, you had told me at one point that there's like some big spreadsheet with 17,000 funds. Is the process you just showed us of that research tab, is that kind of a more elegant way of seeing all the funds?
Yeah. When I talked to someone, yeah, this is the better route to go because the other tab, it just has any possible or relevant information pertaining to a mutual fund in columns for all 17,000 plus funds. And so you're just looking at an encyclopedia of funds and their information, where this is going to walk you through kind of knowing, and that's why I kind of said we're as a team, we're probably going to know the 3, maybe even 5 mutual fund families that we wanted to work with and do business with. And this will allow for us to go and specifically look at American funds, the funds that we have access to, and from there see what makes sense for the client as opposed to going through this huge database system.
And also somewhere on there, Alec, I think it's on the Wealthscape dashboard. If you go to menu and you click on UITs, it should bring up all the UITs we have access to. I think there's 151 that we have access to. So it's a much simpler ecosystem, but it's very similar to what you just went through. We can look at all the different ETFs we have. Or I'm sorry, the UITs on that spot.
Okay.
Alec, I thought
Tell me again, where was that?
Up in the upper right-hand corner, the menu.
Okay.
And then it's the first section over on the left-hand side. It'll say Unit Investment Trust over on the left. Yep. And then from there, you have to go through the agreement. From there, you can go, I think it's offerings is the next thing you want to click on. And then at the bottom, you can just switch it so it shows 200. I think it only shows 20 by default. If you switch
Yep.
it to 200, over on the
Goes.
bottom left, you can see the total. I believe it's 151.
Yep. 152 now.
Well, okay, wow. Hey, we're moving up. All right. So yeah, so that's where we can do the UITs, and the order process is basically is really similar to what you just went through, where we could just make an order for someone's account. You go select someone's account and then select the UIT you want to purchase from this list. So, and one of the reasons I like UITs, especially in taxable accounts, is because it's always at least a 15-month portfolio. So you don't have to worry about any short-term capital gains, any dividends or things like that where you have to pay income tax on. Everything, all the gains in the account will always be a long-term capital gain, which can be advantageous for people who are in a higher tax bracket. And another, I had a note of this, I wanted to mention this too. If you, when you're going through the account creation process, there's like a premier checking account option. Let me see if I can find out what that's exactly called here. That is called Premier Access checking account. I would recommend not choosing that. So I experimented with myself a couple weeks ago. I got myself on here, and I didn't do enough research in the beginning, and I got hit with $100 fee as soon as my account was approved. There's $100 annual fee for the Premier checking account. That's where you can get a debit card. You can actually write checks. You can have bill pay out of your brokerage account. I don't think I'll have really any clients that are going to use that over a free banking account. So that's just something to be mindful. You don't want to have that option selected when you create the account, or you're going to have a surprise $100 fee as soon as it's approved.
Interesting.
Now, David, Alec, do you know what is there like an annual fee for brokerage accounts? Is it like 20, 30, 40 bucks a year or something like that per account?
Only if there's no trades. If there's trades within the account, there's no fee, but they have a $50 annual inactivity fee. So if you just have somebody just sitting in a brokerage account for a year, they will get charged 50 bucks.
Interesting. Okay. But what do you consider a trade? Like me
Yeah, but
reallocating somebody or
yeah, hang on. I had a list.
adding money
What
to
what I
it?
might what I so I actually got an email from field services on what constitutes a trade. Want me to forward that over to you?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, I will, because yeah, he broke it down, because I had that same question for them a couple of weeks ago. So he laid out what all constitutes a trade, because that's not in a PDF or anything on the website. That was something they had to give me directly. So yeah, I'll make a note to email that over to you today. Or do you want me to, should I post it to the Facebook page, or send you an email?
Whatever. I mean, whatever you think's best.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure everybody has that info. Okay. I know anytime you make a purchase of a UIT or a mutual fund, or a sale of a UIT or mutual fund, that counts as a trade. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing too is, if I don't know if Alec, you wanted to touch on this, but there's a mutual fund advantage option in addition to brokerage account, where if somebody's just going to do mutual funds, there's no transaction fees on a mutual fund advantage account. Whereas on a brokerage account, if you're just doing mutual funds on a brokerage account, you're incurring transaction fees for the client that may not be the best option for them.
Can we look at that right now?
Yeah, let's see, do you have, it's on my WFG. Hang on. It's the TFA brokerage account client fee schedule. And yeah, if you go to on my WFG, I think it's on TFA 365, the PDF is on there, and it goes through and it shows all the different like account maintenance fees and the transfer fees if you are in a brokerage account, and none of those apply if you're on mutual fund advantage.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm asking is, can we, on Alec's screen, can you direct Alec where to go to
Yeah,
see?
yeah, Alec. Yeah, Alec, if you go to my WFG, Alec, my WFG TFA 365, I think I can get to it from there. Okay, yeah, scroll down. I
Mutual
can't.
fund advantage.
Yeah, that might be it. So yeah, this is when you're creating an account in Wealthscape, there's a checkbox that says mutual fund advantage, and then that will put you into this type of account. And does it on that PDF, Alec, does it break down on there um, what the fees are? If not, let me see if I can shoot you an email real quick.
It's showing right here.
Is it okay? Perfect. Okay, good.
So $10 for IRAs versus what Alec just showed us would be mutual funds held at a standard brokerage account, right, Alec?
That'd be my understanding.
Yeah, so that'd be $35. I mean, let's be honest, if we're gonna do a Wellscape brokerage account, you're probably using it for you're either using it for small accounts or you're a rep that doesn't have a Series 65 license yet. So that's a bit of a different scenario, but I mean, I'm hard pressed to think why I wouldn't just do mutual fund advantage if all I'm doing is buying mutual funds anyway. I mean,
Yeah, all you're doing is
if I wanted
buying
to
mutual
buy
funds.
a mutual fund, but then also UIT and do that kind of portfolio, then I would be in a standard brokerage account, right, David?
Correct. You have to do brokerage account for UITs. Also, reps with a Series 7 can do ETFs on the brokerage accounts. That would come, I believe, with a 1% advisory fee on the ETFs.
Well, none of us have a 7, so I won't worry about that.
Yeah, yep. Yep,
I will say,
exactly.
you guys, that the I don't know if they're how much they're going to publicly announce this at all ever, but they're working on basically a small account advisory solution on FMAX, and it'll likely involve using American funds models, because American funds, if you go on FMAX on the advisory side and do research, you'll see they have a $0 minimum. So you could do a small account, like a $2,500 account on that in advisory. The current challenge with it, why they have that 10,000 minimum, is because American funds charges like some additional, basically, margin fee that that's their pricing. And so on a really small account, if you add up the dollars, you end up paying more than 3% in some cases. So what the home office, which exceeds our max stated in the disclosure documents. So what our home office is working out is, will they create this kind of exception where, if you have a reason to be on advisory, and the only real reason would be if the client has other larger accounts on advisory and they want the same kind of relationship, the home office might be waiving a fee on their end to, make it work. But I think they're going to do that case by case for a while, and it'll pretty much always be if your client has other assets. So the classic example of, one spouse has $100,000 IRA and then another spouse has a $6,000 Roth that's been frozen forever because they can't contribute to it, like that kind of a thing. So stay tuned. I hope to hear more about that actually this week. But this whole mutual fund advantage certainly isn't a bad way to go. You're just back into a commission environment.
Mhm. And same with the UITs, you're basically getting paid up front. You get paid 1.25% up front for a 15-month portfolio. So it's basically 1.1% a year is how that works out.
Okay.
There,
So how would he go? So this pulls up a PDF. How would he go to actually create a mutual fund advantage account?
It's the same exact process as creating a brokerage account. On the account creation process, there is a checkbox for mutual fund advantage, which I think it's just a toggle yes or no. So actually, if you want to even, create a new account, I think it's on the very first screen. If you want to you don't even have to create an account. You choose the account registration. It might be on the second screen. Yeah, just account registration, and then okay, yep, looks like it is on the first screen. So at the very bottom, I have a hard time seeing it on my phone, but I think that's mutual fund only.
Yeah.
That's it right there. So if you don't choose that, you're in brokerage. If you choose that, you're in mutual fund advantage. So like we were saying,
Wouldn't it be a whole lot easier if they just labeled that mutual fund advantage?
Would be nice.
I'm willing to bet so mutual fund advantage is like a TFA kind of nomenclature they've come up with. But we're using Fidelity's platform. And so I think they have some things that they can customize and some things that they can't, because Fidelity's rolling this out to hundreds of broker dealers. So I think that's why that will probably always say mutual fund only.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, because we basically have multiple different account types on FMAX. We got the SMAs, the FSPs, and then for lower accounts, we've got the mutual fund advantage and then brokerage accounts, depending on how you want to set that up, is how it was explained. I'm actually looking at what's that?
Go ahead, I cut you off.
Oh, I was going to say I'm actually looking at if it's under 25,000, maybe looking a little bit more at brokerage side, but anything over 25,000, probably looking at an FMAX type of solution. But then again, I mean, if they keep dropping the minimums, that's going to probably change my thinking on that down the road too.
Yeah, see, why do you say that, David? If you have like a $20,000 client.
Well, because there's a minimum fee if you have under, I think it's 22 or 23. There's a minimum fee you have to pay on FMAX, and I think you can only be in like one or two strategies. I think this isn't $10,000 per minimum. So if you have 11,000, you can only be in one strategy until you get over 20. Then you can be in two strategies. So you can just get a little more diversification potentially with the smaller accounts by doing it the other way.
So you're bringing up something that's really interesting, and one thing I would tell you guys is, again, this I'm giving you my opinion. This isn't like fact or something you have to do, but how I'm positioning myself. Number one, I personally like advisory over brokerage because it's just a lot less friction, right? There's no nickel and dime fees. My client's not paying a sales load. I just like everything about that experience more than than that. Number two, I'm constantly wanting to upscale my clients, and so I'm offering different tiers of service to different clients. And so one thing, and this is a change for me, because see, on Goldman, you could have a $7,000 account and put it in 4 different strategies, and you could have it allocated exactly like your $400,000 account. Well, that is we got so used to that just being a thing, but that was like the one advantage of Goldman is you could have a UMA for like with no minimums. But that doesn't exist hardly anywhere else in the industry. And so Fidelity, we've gotten our minimums down massively. I don't know this for a fact, but I would be comfortable placing a wager that our minimums on FMAX and all that are lower than most of the industry. And so that gets us down pretty low. But if I have a client with $18,000, I don't know that I need to put that in. I mean, how much diversification do I need for starters? And number two, like just putting that in a Fidelity FSP that's already got 10 or 12 ETFs in it that Fidelity's managing, like that probably has 2,000 securities in it. So like at some point, I don't feel like I need to overly diversify a very small account. And I'm just as I'm comfortable like leading with my fee and just showing here's our fees, and here's what we're doing for it. And that's a whole discussion that we could have very soon. But it's this idea that like, hey, as your account grows, I'm able to customize and do more things once we get to bigger dollar amounts, and so once we get over 25,000, that opens up some opportunities. Once we get over 100,000, that opens up some additional opportunities. And I think from a marketability standpoint, a lot of practice management experts would talk to you about segmentation. For your A clients, you're doing just more things than you're doing for your B clients. They're typically larger accounts. It's all that stuff. So that probably warrants a deeper discussion. But I think having a very clear kind of like personal methodology of your process and what you're doing, whatever you decide to do, David or anybody, is key. Because what you want to avoid is a bunch of one-off stuff where, hey, for this client, I did brokerage, but for this one, I'm doing advisory, and that one, I'm using Fidelity, and this one, I tried American Funds. And like then you just have a mess on your hands that you can't manage.
That makes sense, definitely.
Not to mention, you're going to get paid better on advisory. And soon,
yeah,
David, you're knocking on the door of getting into that advisory pool yourself. If I were in your shoes, I would want every dollar possible paying out into advisory versus securities.
Hmm. Okay.
Actually, you get paid a lot more on advisory. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you can go up to what, 1.25 on F max, and then I think it's actually less if you're doing just Fidelity FSPs. The fee for the client is actually less than doing like a mutual fund or UIT, I believe.
it's really, really efficient.
Yeah.
What I would, yeah, even if you don't go up to 1.25, but of course, if you do, then that massively tilts the scale. And I would defend that all day long. The amount of service work we're doing for small accounts, like that's why I have my tiered schedule.
Yep.
It's forever going to be called the Joe's Crab Shack fee schedule. But anyways, it's a little inside joke. But the reality is even at 1% or the standard 1.1, you're seeing 99 basis points hitting your commission statement. If you sell a mutual fund, A-share mutual fund, that haircut is like 17%, which I think is outrageous. But frankly, we just don't do any volume on mutual funds, on securities. Now, the one caveat there is none of us have set up an account yet. I don't think I've been paid a commission yet on Mutual Fund Advantage. I just know with like direct American funds business, if you do the math on what you're getting paid, TFA takes 10% haircut on advisory. And so it's super lean. They take 14% on VAs. They won't disclose this publicly, but the numbers between 17 and 18 on VULs, and it's about 17.4 or something on mutual funds. So it's just a bigger haircut on those products. So that's why, to me, all roads lead towards advisory. It's better for me. It's better for the client, and I just think it's a win-win.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything they want to add to this or ask about this?
I'll add, I'm not sure if you still have sharing capability, Alec, but as far as recurring contributions, have you guys successfully gone through that process yet?
Yeah,
We
if it's on
have.
go through advisory if you can for that kind of business, which is great. Otherwise, there's like Alec, maybe you can jump in here too. There's like an integrated cashier system on a brokerage account where if they're putting money into the brokerage account, you can automatically put that into mutual funds from there. I think Mutual Fund Advantage has the same thing.
So
Yeah, I was just
that's the same thing on the advisory side too of this integrated cashier.
Yep.
You're setting up a bank link, and then from there, that's kind of like our within Goldman. It's the same process where you're kind of setting something up that's recurring.
correct. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to hit on it super quick in case anyone had questions. It's titled ICP in the menu tab. So you got to create a bank link, and then it's a little bit more cumbersome than Goldman, but I think it's just a
Mhm.
matter of getting used to it. Um, yeah, I had to kind of fumble around to get
More
a
cumbersome in the beginning, but
yeah.
even as I'm getting a little cleaner at it, man, I love this platform. I've had clients, the dollar amounts don't matter, but some of them have been massive. But like I've gone in and like done an ICP, and like the money is in the account within seconds. Because I ACH'd 800 grand into an account in like 9 seconds a couple weeks back for a client, like
Nice.
instantly in the account, instantly ready to trade. I
Mm.
mean, that's unbelievable. So it's a totally different universe than Goldman.
Keep in mind with that that if you do that and you have maybe this only applies to me since I'm from BFE originally, but if you if you have a small little hometown bank that somebody deals with, you likely will need a voided check to accompany that direct deposit form.
Don't Fort Bank still accept telegraphs from Western Union? Like,
They might.
Pony Express.
But the EWS system that Fidelity uses to, to establish these links amongst, banks alike. If you're a part of that system, it's great. But if you have a small little credit union or something somewhere that somebody uses,
Joe, you know something I don't know. So expand. What did you just say? EWS or something?
yeah, I think it's called EWS or EMS or something. It's some electronic system that banks use every morning to just verify communication with one another. And so it's something that Fidelity uses when establishing these direct deposits or automated transfers. They're verifying that the bank's legit, basically. But
Fort Bank, that can't be a real bank.
it is.
I love it.
They still use Pony Express. Wonder.
It's called the early warning services.
Okay.
When you walk into Old Fort, they still have like a big leather bound ledger, and that's how they keep track of all their transactions.
I
And
don't know. They have dumb suckers though, so it's all that matters.
Oh, nice.
guys, I've enjoyed this training a lot. I appreciate Alec and David, specifically your contributions, but just the brainstorming collaborative element of it was really awesome because it's really a pleasure for me to be able to hop on this and learn something from you guys. And I would love to do a whole lot more of that, candidly. So as you guys are all getting into this and funding accounts, we'll hop on and do more stuff. So that said, where do you guys want to take this training? I mean, we got kind of all of our core people on here right now. Where do you guys, I'm going to pause the recording here right now real quick.